Okay, hear me out. You don't need the expensive watch. You don't need the fancy clothes. You don't need the carbon plate shoes. You don't need the Strava. You don't need to run in a fancy neighborhood or do a major marathon. If you put one foot in front of the other for even 1 kilometer, you're a runner. You don't need to do an ultra marathon to be considered a runner. Any distance, any time, any effort, you are a runner. Hola amigos, and welcome back to One More Mile podcast. I feel like this episode had to come to the podcast inevitable because it's kind of like what the name of the podcast is about, One More Mile. It means going to that one more mile, but also is because I'm a runner and I love to run, so I had to put it out there in some type of way. Today we're going to be talking a little bit of my running journey, but mostly about race day, the NYC Marathon, the 9+1 program, and stuff like that. And this topic it was asked, even though I'm really passionate about it, was asked by my good friend Andy. I met him at my run club, GOATS run club, the run club that I have with my friend Walter. I met Andy over there and we became good friends, and he requested this topic. So thank you, Andy, because I'm gonna yap for, I don't know, maybe half an hour. So yeah, thank you. So just a little bit of my running journey. I started running probably about 2 years now. I started running after having a leg injury that didn't allow me to even walk. Then I started walking, and then I fell in love with running. I just started going outside, and I did my first 5K and I almost fainted. And then I did my first half marathon and I in fact fainted. I got injured while running. I have thrown up. I have almost passed out. I have hurt myself. A lot of things. I've been dehydrated, but it's a sport that I really love, and I'm starting to understand a little bit more and to be more conscious about it. But at the beginning, I was just doing it out of nowhere, and it's always been fun. So before, it used to be really like a lonely escape for me, and it was also when I was starting my sobriety and my sober life journey, which I do have a episode about my sobriety already. It's gonna be on the Spotify or on YouTube, wherever you listen to this podcast. But I started running right along with my sobriety, so I think those two went hand in hand. It was kind of like replacing one thing for the other. Instead of going to the bar, I started running. I was doing it mostly by myself because none of my friends at the moment run. I have some friends that they do go to the gym, they lift weights, but no one was actually running. And I remember it was around the time I did my first half marathon in 2 hours and 30 minutes, and then I immediately died. My parents had to like take me home. I was like, please help me. It was fun though. And I did that in December of 2023. December 2023, so it's been a little bit more than a year, like a year and 1 month. And I remember that after doing that, I was so fascinated about the fact of that I was able to run a half marathon that I decided that I wanted to do the full marathon. So I'm already in New York, right? I want to do the biggest marathon ever, the New York City Marathon. How can I do it? I started doing my own research, and then I came across all of the possibilities which you can do the New York City Marathon, which time that wasn't gonna happen, and it's not gonna happen anytime soon because I'm not fast, or I'm not fast enough yet, as I would like to say. Also, I'm not gonna be doing with a charity because I'm very bad at selling stuff. And if I'm not really passionate about something, I feel like I'm just gonna force people to buy something and they're not gonna buy it. So charity wasn't gonna happen. And I discovered the 9+1 program to run the New York City Marathon. Guys, if you're listening to this podcast, please, 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 please take a shot every time I said New York City Marathon, okay? Because it's gonna be a lot. The 9+1 program consists in, it's basically a program that the organization that runs the marathon, the New York Road Runners, and I hate to say the name because I have a very thick accent, so I can't say it fast. New York Road Runners. It sounds bad. But The NYRR, they basically provide this program 9+1 where you run 9 qualifying races with them, and then you volunteer on one, and then you're able to run the marathon next year. So I did my program in 2024. I did it last year. That means this year, 2025, I'm running the marathon, baby. Yes. Basically, this program is to help people in New York or in the tri-state area, New Jersey, Connecticut, upstate, Long Island, I don't know. If you live in Virginia and you want to do the program, you can do it too. You just have to commute a lot of weekends to the city. But it allows people from New York to run the marathon that are not doing it with a charity, or that are not paying a tour, or that are not basically super fast. So that is the program that I did. You have to pay a membership. The membership that I have is the cheapest one. I've been good with that one. I don't have the necessity yet to upgrade to the plus one, but the cheapest one is like $60 at the moment, 2025. So yeah, it's pretty affordable for the whole year, and it gives you a discount on races that you want to do. So I think it's pretty nice. All of the 9 races that you do in the 9+1 program have to be qualifying. So when you signed up, you need to see that it says 9+1 in the corner of it. If it doesn't say 9+1, that means it's a random race and you're not gonna get credit, and that is not gonna count for your marathon. So please keep that in mind every time you are like signing up for a race. Also, there is no issue if you want to do a 5K, if you want to do a 10K, if you want to do 15K, half marathon, 4 miler, 12 miler. I've done every single distance that there is. As long as it's a qualifier, you can do any distance. You can even walk it. If you're injured and you don't want to run, you can walk and you still get the credit. So don't feel rushed that you need to race and be super fast and be in the top 5 to get the credit. No, everyone gets the credit as long as you cross the start and finish line within like the amount of time that they give you, which is like plenty of time. Even if you walk it, you'll be fine. There is also something called the virtual races. So you can do, basically you put on your Strava and then you run the distance that they require. If it's a 5K, you run a 5K. If it's a half marathon, you run a half marathon wherever you want to run it. If you want to run it in the park, if you want to run it in Central Park, if you want to run it in the highway, whatever you want to run it, you just put the Strava and then you run. I did one of those last year. I am not doing any virtual races anymore unless I have to fill out my 9 races and I'm missing out one, because they do fill out really quickly. Unless I have to fill out one, I'm not gonna do it, because first of all, I don't see the point in paying $25 to run with Strava to get just like a badge online. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. Second of all, I live for the experience and I live for the momentum. So the fact of going to a race and putting on the shirt and getting a medal and getting the bib, and sometimes you're not going to get a medal because you only get medals for like bigger races, but having a free shirt and having a bib and calling my family or my friends to come see me race and like take a picture, that is a whole experience that I like, meeting new people. So I'm gonna take the experience over any virtual race anytime that I can. So yeah, but if you want to, you can still do a lot of virtual races. If you do 6 virtual races, you qualify for the United Half Marathon in New York, which you run in Times Square, but that's another thing. I don't want to get you guys too confused. But yeah, I'm not doing any virtual races this year, but you can. I did my 9 races on 2024. I did my volunteer on February last year. It was bad because it was freezing. So if you're doing your volunteer this year, I will highly suggest to do it on the summer, especially spring. I think spring or fall will be nice, but summertime it will be ideal too. If you don't want to be there for a long time, you can do it at a small race. I did it at a 10K and I was there for like 3-4 hours. So if you do it at a 5K, you're going to be there less minutes. Also, it depends what you do. You can give people the medals. You can give people the apples. You can give people the water. You can be a back check. You can take out the garbage. You can do a million things. So get your volunteer on the way. Also, if you are a nursing student, or if you're like a doctor or a nurse or something like that, I think you get more chances to do more volunteers because you have like a medical thing, but you will have to do more research on that. Since I don't have any of that, I haven't done my research, but I'll let the information sink in there. Get your volunteer out of the way. Once you have your 9 races and your volunteer, then the next year, I finished that on 2024. Right now it's 2025. On February, the slots to claim my spot to run the New York City Marathon are gonna open soon. They open up, I claim my spot, and then on November, I will run the marathon. And that's pretty much it. And you can do it until you die. And you run the marathon until you die. This year is more special. I'm doing the same program again. So that means I'm going to be racing again in 2026. Woohoo! But this year I'm doing the program with a bunch of my friends from Run Club. So it's more special because you're not waiting in the freezing alone. You're not on the heat wave alone. You're actually with people that love you and care about you and that you love. And it's just nice. It feels nice. And I feel like that's also an important thing about running and the running community. It could be very toxic nowadays. I have to admit that sometimes I miss the days where I was not involved in the running community, and when I tell people, hey, I ran 3 miles, they're like, wow, you ran 3 miles? No way. Right now, if I tell people like, hey, I ran 3 miles, they're like, yeah, that was my warm-up. I'm doing a half marathon before work. It's too much toxicity. It is nice, but I feel like it's 50-50. You do have these really nice individuals that love you and they want to push you a little bit to be the best version of yourself, but you also have these other people and these other voices, even internal voices that are like, oh, your pace is only a 10-minute pace when there's people that are doing a 5.5. You should be better, blah, 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 blah. Or like, oh, you don't have the new Nike Alpha Flights? You should be better. You should have this, blah, 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 blah. You don't have the Garmin Forerunner, blah, 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 blah. It's just too much to keep up with, and I feel like the running community is very welcoming, but at the same time is very picky. So if you don't match a little bit of the criteria that they have, it is completely like you're an outsider. Because I've done 11 races in these 2 years that I've had. I've done 5 half marathons. When I say that to people that don't run, they're like, you've done 5 half marathons? 5? They're impressed. It's amazing. I do think it's amazing because 3 years ago, I couldn't even walk. I was so injured that I couldn't even walk. So the fact that I did 5 half marathons in the span of a year, to me, it's amazing. And I've done a bunch of other races, a bunch of other distances. And when I tell that to people that are in the running community and they look at my physique, because I have to admit that I have more of a percentage of body fat than what the usual runner or what the usual runner that takes a lot of care in their eating habits look like. They look at me and they're like, you're a runner? Like, distance runner? Like yeah, in this body that has fat and muscle and bones and water and everything, in this body, I am able to run half marathons. I am able to run 60-mile runs. I am able to do long distance. In this body, I will run a marathon. In this body, I will run 2 marathons in 1 year. Paris Marathon and a big major marathon in New York City. In this body that you're seeing. The running community is very like 50-50. I love it and I hate it. And I love that I hate it and I hate that I love it. And I love my friends, but I hate the people that talk too much and that care too much. Sometimes you just want to run and vibe and not care about pace and Strava. And sometimes you want to care about those things. It is very ironic, but I love it. It's just I can't get out of it. I'm in love with it. It's addictive and you can be addicted too. Going back to my little topic request that Andy, my friend Andy, gave me, he said, race day. How do you prepare routines, superstitions, the New Year Roadrunner process, distance, mindset, music, crowds, etc.? So I already talked a little bit of the 9+1 process. how do I prepare and superstitions? Ooh. So I would like to say that I go to bed early before a race, but I don't. It's just my body is used to the retail schedule that I work, so I sleep at any time that I want to sleep, and sometimes I don't want to sleep, so it is kind of bad sometimes. But yeah, my body is just not used to go to bed early, so I go to bed whenever. Sometimes I'm tired, but I'm trying to get better this year at that. What I do have to admit is, guys, even if you are not sensible in the stomach, I am not sensitive. I can eat anything. I've eaten a lot of expired food through my life, and nothing has happened to me, thankfully. So I don't consider myself something with a sensible or sensitive digestive system. I don't know how to say it. But the last race that I had, it was a 10K a couple of weeks ago, and I decided to, oh, my husband bought wings for dinner. Amazing. I'm gonna feel so much energetic tomorrow if I had these wings for dinner. Guys, that was the worst mistake that I could have ever done in my life. At mile 4 on that 10K, I was dying. I wanted to stop. I wanted to use the restroom so bad. It was really bad. So please don't test anything new before race day, even if it's a small race, even if it's a big race. Use the same clothes that you've been training for, use the same watch, use the same headphones, use the same makeup, eat the same food, eat carbs, eat pasta, eat potatoes, eat rice, cook at home. Because if you go to a restaurant, even if you know that you can eat fettuccine alfredo, but if you go to a different restaurant, they might use different oil, they might do something different, and it can mess you up. So please try to stay at home, have a chill night, watch a movie, eat something yummy that you cook that you know is gonna make you feel better and not bloated and not bad the next day. And yeah, I don't have any superstitions for race day. I don't have any mantras. Of course, every time I like to set myself for success, and I try to push myself to hit a PR in every race that I do. I will say that I have accomplished that probably 80% of the time. The other 20% of the time, I've been either injured, sick, or just, yeah, it hasn't happened, because that's also life. You're not gonna hit a PR every time you go out to run, and that's okay. And you're not gonna hit a PR every time you go out to a race, and that's okay too. I always try to prioritize health. I don't wanna, my mom always says, do it at your pace, do it slow, hazlo tranquila, hazlo calmada, and don't die over there. Because I don't wanna, the thing is, running is about health and wellness, right? I don't wanna make this into a toxic competition with myself that I ended up being injured or getting hurt or fainting or doing harm to my body, trying to aim for unrealistic goals, when in reality, no one is putting a gun in my head and being like, yeah, you have to hit this goal, blah, blah, blah. I'm not running for money. This is not my career, like my professional career. I don't make money out of this. This is just for fun. This is just something that I like. So that is something that I'm also trying to tell myself every time that I try to reach for a goal, and I try to be as realistic as possible, but also being positive. That Andy says is distance. My longest race that I've done is a half marathon. At the moment, late January 2025, I have run 16 miles. Yeah, 16 miles without stopping. That is the farthest that I've done. I'm doing a full marathon in a few months, so I don't know what's gonna happen, but I think I always try to think of only the mile that I'm in. So I'm looking at my watch, mile 1, let's just finish mile 1, mile 2. I'm not thinking about 13 miles ahead, because if I'm doing a half marathon and I'm already in mile 2 and I'm thinking about 13, it feels like forever. So I'm trying to focus on the mile that I'm in. Also, for the races that I do, this is completely a me thing, but I like to film myself while I run. A lot of my friends have different opinions about this. Me and my co-founder and friend Walter, we fight with this topic, because he's like, I'm just here for a race. I'm here to race, and like I want to hit a PR, and I'm focused, and I wish I had that mindset, but I'm just like, I'm paying $100 for this half marathon. I want to enjoy it. I want to have as many pictures and videos. So that would be one of my tips. If you're doing any race, try to pick different places. I'm talking about New York, but it could be anywhere in the world that you are. Try to pick different places that you haven't run at. I run in Central Park every week because we have a run club and we run in Central Park every week. So I'm trying to pick up my races to be outside of Central Park just so you get like a different view and you enjoy it more and you actually feel excited to go and run 10 miles, 12 miles, especially if it's a bigger race, a bigger distance. Just pick up a different scenario of race. Don't pick up the same thing because then you're going to get bored and it's going to be tiring. Also for long distance, and these I need some recommendations. I have tried every single gel in the market. I don't like it. It doesn't work for me. I feel like it does nothing on my body. It doesn't give me a boost of energy. And it only makes me want to go to the bathroom and it messes up my stomach. What I've been doing is granola bars, but I know that by the time I eat the granola bar, probably the marathon is going to be over and I'm not going to be able to use all that fuel. So I was willing to try some gummies. My friend Walter made me try some gummies the other day that we were running a long run, and I kind of like it. But what do you guys use to fuel your runs? I know some people do regular gummies. I know some people do chocolate, honey sticks. So if you have any recommendations, please let me know. But yeah, also bring out your snacks that you like when you're on a long run, when you're training. I love my granola bars with my whole life. And the fact that if I am running a long run and I get to eat a granola bar, that feels amazing. So set that in mind when you go for a longer distance. Music. There is like this theory that if you search the amount of beats per hour that you want to run at, it's gonna help you like boom 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 boom. You're gonna go faster. I do feel like if you run listening to Driver's License by Olivia Rodrigo, you're not gonna hit a PR because you're gonna be so depressed. You're not gonna hit a PR. But whatever you enjoy, go ahead. My friend Walter, he listens to a lot of like, I think it's like hip hop and like boom 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 boom, and he's fast. But the thing, when I'm like already by the end, when I don't have any power, when I'm like, oh my god, I want this race to be over, I want to go home and drink a Diet Coke, when I'm like about to throw up everything and just die, Pitbull comes like a savior. I think podcast is only when you train. If you race listening to a podcast, there is something wrong with you and you need to be studied. You need to be sent to scientifics to do a study on you, because why are you racing listening to a podcast? If you are listening to my podcast, though, I will be more than happy to be with you along the race. But any other podcast, please no, listen to music and just enjoy your race. That is everything that Andy had to say about running and the 9+1 and all the races. Guys, if you are an experienced runner and you're listening to this podcast, please don't leave a mean comment, because I'm doing this podcast and, as Hannah Montana will say, I'm just an ordinary girl. I am just a girl that likes to run. I'm not an athlete. I was never in cross country. I was never a track star. I was never anything of that. In fact, in high school, I despised running. I hated it with all my life. And now look at me paying to do races and to go to marathons in other continents. But yeah, take this with a grain of salt. I know that I'm not an expert. This is just my experience. This is just what has worked for me. This is just how to get from normal human being not being able to run 1 kilometer to amazingly normal human being being able to run 5 half marathons in the span of 1 year, training for 2 marathons in the same year. So I feel like that is my resume that I can throw in there. I feel like I always have to justify myself, especially in this running community. Nowadays, if you don't have a six-pack, you're not a real runner. So I will keep justifying myself. I'm also on a mission to bring out the best in people and bring out the inner goat. I'm gonna have a completely independent episode for the Run Club, Goats Run Club. It is my baby. It is Walter's baby. It is our project together. It is our I was gonna say it is our podcast. It is our Run Club that we put a lot of effort and work into. We have met amazing people there. We have been to amazing places. We did a half marathon with like 10 members of the club in another state. We three of us are going to Paris to do a marathon there. Like 5 of us are doing the 9+1 this year to be able to run the New York City Marathon in 2026. 2 members already did the New York City Marathon in 2025. We see each other every week. We see each other every Tuesday, and we see each other every Saturday. We have track workouts. We have speed workouts. We have easy runs. We haven't had a big long run. I think our longest run was 15K, but we're gonna get some long runs in. We have events. We have collabs. We have nice things going along the Goats Run Club. So if you guys are runners, or if you want to start running and you want to start training, and your goal maybe is to run the New York City Marathon in the next few years, please come to our Run Club. I'm gonna link it as well as my Instagram, as my personal Instagram. Or if you just want to vibe and you just want to run, or if you're just listening to this episode because you love me or you enjoy my content and you're not a runner, thank you for listening. I know we're all a little bit sick in the head because we pay to run races and we pay to run. We pay to run. But hey, this is the sport that we love and I'm here for it. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the One More Mile podcast. And now you know a little bit of the meaning behind the name of this podcast. I am Paula. I'm your host. Please rate the show, Spotify, YouTube. I'm going to link all of my social medias down below. Let me know what other topics would you like me to cover next, and I will see you on a next one. Bye.